Okay, picture this. It's 1519. You have one of the most powerful empires in the Americas. We're talking millions of people, a capital city bigger than anything in Europe. And then they come face to face with just a few hundred outsiders. 2 years later, that empire's gone. Just ashes. So how on earth did that happen? Let's dive in.
I mean, this is the big question, right? The one that just sounds impossible. How did a handful of guys, maybe 600 soldiers, take down an empire of millions? An empire that could call up tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of warriors. It just doesn't compute. And I'll tell you right now, the answer is a lot more complicated than just guns and steel.
So to really get this, you have to understand that we're talking about a collision of two completely separate worlds. I mean, they were developing on opposite sides of a huge ocean, totally unaware that the other even existed. It's like two planets on a collision course, and neither one sees it coming. And just look at the contrast here. It's absolutely wild. On one side, you've got the Aztec Empire. This is the superpower of the region, led by Moctezuma II from this incredible capital city. Then you've got Hernan Cortez. He's this ambitious, kind of restless guy leading what's basically a rogue mission. His own governor told him not to go. This whole thing was an unsanctioned gamble from the start. And let's just talk about the scale here for a second. The Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. We're talking about an island city with over 200,000 people. Now, get this. That's bigger than London, Paris, or Rome at the time. Let that sink in. This wasn't some backwater town. This was a massive, sophisticated metropolis, an absolute marvel of engineering. So back to the big question. How did they even stand a chance? Well, the answer starts the second they step off the boats. This wasn't just about fighting. It was a masterclass in psychology, politics, and just plain ruthless strategy. Okay, let's break down Cortez's opening moves because they were brilliant. First, he needs to make his illegal mission, well, legal. So he founds a town, Veracruz, and makes himself the leader, basically bypassing his old boss. Then, and this is gutsy, he sinks his own ships. No turning back now. That's a point of no return. But maybe the most crucial move? He finds translators. This unlocks everything, because now he can understand the political landscape, and that leads him to the real game changer, finding people who absolutely hated the Aztecs. And this is so important. That little army of 600 Spaniards, it didn't stay at 600 for long. Cortez taps into a deep well of local resentment. He finds the Tlaxcalans, a powerful group who had been basically terrorized by the Aztecs for years. They were forced into these ritual flower wars just so the Aztecs could get captives for human sacrifice. Imagine that. So when Cortez shows up and says, hey, you want revenge? They jump at the chance. Suddenly, Cortez's army swells with thousands of local warriors who know the land and have a score to settle. So now, with this huge new army, Cortez marches towards the capital, Tenochtitlan. And you'd think the next step is a huge epic battle at the city gates, right? Wrong. Cortez's boldest move yet doesn't involve a single sword swing in battle. It happens inside the emperor's palace, and it turns a diplomatic meeting into a full-blown hostage crisis. I mean, look how fast this all goes down. In November of 1519, the Spanish are welcomed into the city as guests. Moctezuma lets them right in. Maybe he thought they were gods, maybe he was just indecisive, we don't know for sure. But just a few weeks later, Cortez uses some tiny skirmish on the coast as a pretext to arrest the emperor in his own home. Just like that, the leader of the entire empire is his prisoner. And things stay tense until May 1520, when one of Cortez's men massacres a bunch of Aztec nobles during a religious festival. And that's it. The city just explodes with rage.
But before it all went wrong, you have to understand what the Spanish were seeing. They were completely blown away. This quote from Bernal Diaz, one of the soldiers, just says it all. I mean, these guys had been all over the world. They'd seen the great cities of Europe, and even they had never seen anything like the Aztec capital. The markets, the temples, the order, it was just staggering to them. This was the genius and the sheer audacity of Cortez's plan. By making the emperor his puppet, he could issue orders that the entire empire would follow. He didn't have to conquer the empire from the outside, he basically hijacked it from the inside. Think about that. For a little while, this one guy was running an empire of millions, all by controlling one person.
But, a plan like that is a ticking time bomb. You can't hold an entire empire hostage forever. After that massacre at the temple, the people of Tenochtitlan have had enough. The city erupts in full-scale rebellion.
And for a minute there, it really looks like the Spanish are done for. Their whole crazy adventure is about to end in a bloodbath. The Spanish call it La Noche Triste, the night of sorrows. And it was. The city is in total revolt, and Cortez and his men have to make a run for it. They try to sneak out in the middle of the night, but they're spotted. Suddenly, they are swarmed from all sides. Aztec warriors in canoes attack them on the causeways. It's absolute chaos, a desperate, bloody fight to escape in the dark. And the cost of that night was just staggering. Look at these numbers. The Spanish force was shattered. More than half of them were killed, along with thousands of their Tlaxcalan allies. They lost their cannons, their horses, and almost all the treasure they'd gathered. It was an absolute catastrophe. The few who made it out were battered, bleeding, and broken. By all rights, this should have been the end of the story.
Yeah, that really should have been the end of it. Any normal person would have fled back to the coast. But Cortez, well, he wasn't a normal person. He was relentless. He falls back, but not to escape. He retreats to his allies in Tlaxcala, and he starts planning his comeback. And this time, it's not going to be a clever trick. It's going to be a brutal, grinding siege to wipe the city off the map.
And what he does next is just mind-boggling. He knows he can't take the island city without controlling the lake. So what does he do? He has his men build an entire fleet of small warships in pieces. Then they carry this fleet over the mountains and reassemble the ships on the shore of the lake. I mean, think about that. He's about to wage a naval war hundreds of miles from the nearest ocean. It's insane.
So the final fall of Tenochtitlan wasn't about one single thing. It was this perfect storm of devastating factors. First, you have the silent killer, disease. A smallpox epidemic swept through the city, killing a huge number of people before the fighting even really started. Second, Cortez wasn't alone. He had tens of thousands of native allies who were just as determined as he was. Third, his new navy completely blockaded the city, so no food or water could get in. And finally, it was just brutal, grinding siege warfare, destroying the city building by building, day after day.
And we really can't overstate the impact of disease. Smallpox was, without a doubt, the most powerful weapon the Europeans had, and they didn't even know it. That number you see, 95%, that's the estimated death toll among the indigenous population in the next 100 years, mostly from diseases like smallpox. It is a demographic collapse on a scale that is almost impossible to comprehend. So, after a siege that lasted for 93 brutal days, the city finally fell in August of 1521. But it wasn't enough to conquer it. Cortez ordered the city to be systematically demolished. The magnificent pyramids were torn down, the canals filled with rubble. And right on top of those ruins, they built something new, Mexico City. They literally buried the Aztec world under a new one.
There's this Aztec poem written after the fall, and it just says everything. Broken spears lie in the roads, our inheritance, our city is lost and dead. It's just the raw voice of someone watching their entire world disappear. A world that was thriving just a couple of years before was now completely gone.
So that brings us back to this central theme, doesn't it? What happens when two worlds collide? The fall of the Aztec Empire wasn't just the end of a civilization. It was this violent, dramatic moment where two long-lost branches of the human family crashed back into each other. And that collision, a mix of ambition, disease, strategy, and technology, well, it created the world we live in now, for better or for worse. It's just an incredible and tragic reminder of how fast a world can vanish, and a new one can be born from the ashes.